Gero here for Umbra Games with a review of Destiny 2, played on PlayStation 4 for the review, but also available on Xbox One as of September 2017, with a PC version available in October of 2017. Destiny 2 is the follow-up to 2014's Destiny and its several expansion packs, a science fiction adventure following a group of people called the Guardians, reanimated soldiers bearing the light of the Traveler that work to defend the last city on Earth. A new threat appears, endangering the existence of the giant hovering globe-like Traveler in the last city, and you and your fellow Guardians must jump back into action. Now, a quick disclaimer, I played Destiny for about the first month it was out. I didn't participate in any of the following DLC, so I'll be making very few comparisons to the original Destiny, as I'm not really familiar with the game's end state at the end of its run. New content and features are constantly being added to Destiny 2, even in just the few weeks it's been out, so keep in mind that if you're watching this months down the road, there could be additional things not shown in this review. Destiny 2, like its predecessor, is a shared world shooter, meaning players in groups of 20 or so are instanced in each area of the game, so you have a view of other players on game maps as well as the social hubs. When you take on one of the game's many quests, you're often transitioned into a smaller instance where it's just you and your fire team. In most activities, that's you and two others. Most of Destiny 2's basic gameplay stays the same. The Warlock, Hunter, and Titan classes return, and the game is a first-person shooter that will switch to third-person when some of the special abilities are triggered, as well as in social areas. Weapons in 2 come in the form of kinetic, energy, and heavy this time, one of each that can be equipped on your character at a time. There are multiple types of weapons that appear as either kinetic or energy, with the differences being specific bonus elemental damage on the energy ones, solar, arc, or void. Some enemies will have elemental weaknesses to one type or the other, specifically bigger enemies with colored shields, where you don't hit them with the opposite color, but in fact if you see an orange shield, you hit it with the fire-like solar weapons, blue for arc, and purple for void. There are sidearms, hand cannons, submachine guns, scout rifles, pulse rifles, and assault rifles of both the kinetic and energy variety. Now you can hold less ammunition for the heavy slot, which covers shotguns, sniper rifles, fusion rifles, and swords. I mean, who knew it cost ammo to swing a sword? The color loot system returns from white to green to blue to purple to the yellow exotics as well. Bungie's equipment designers are top-notch, and on several occasions we found ourselves just going to the close-up screen to examine our new acquisitions. On the screen, though, a lot of the higher level weapons also have perks you can select at any time to provide a variety of effects and bonuses. When you have gear you don't want, you can dismantle it, the lower levels simply providing Glimmer, the game's currency, whereas other rarity levels will provide gun parts, which serve as a reputation item to the weaponsmith, or crystals that can be used to buy things from the mysterious vendor Xur that shows up on weekends, or in upgrading an existing piece of gear you like by combining it with an item that has a higher power level. If you like to run multiple characters, there's still the vault in the social hub where you can place things and access them between your other characters on your account. In Destiny 2, you have a regenerating shield, and when you take too much damage, you can take cover and it will regenerate. While I'd like to see even more differences between character classes, the subclasses in Destiny 2 that each class can obtain and level provide a few more distinct abilities. Now, I played a Warlock who has an ability to place a circle on the ground that can heal any player standing in it. I can change my loadout to make that same circle boost attack power instead. The thing is, it kind of feels more like an ability that will be used as a key to an encounter in a raid, rather than something utilitarian, as just staying out of the line of fire for a few seconds will do the exact same thing as that power. Each class has subclasses aligned to one of the game's 3 elements as well, which to me further takes away their distinction. Each has various grenades with corresponding effects that recharge over time after use, and melee attacks that can also be imbued with various properties and bonuses. Jumping continues to be interesting in Destiny 2. You can actually unlock 3 different jump types, providing various acceleration points. After the double jump, you'll float with most, and you can press the jump button again to descend more quickly. A few of those platforming areas and levels aren't without some frustration, though. Killing enemies and completing quests grants your character experience points, and once the bar is filled, they will level up. Leveling the character serves 2 purposes, providing points to put into skill trees, and serving as a gateway through the game's campaign, locking events behind specific levels. The maximum level is currently 20. The real show of power in Destiny 2, though, is your Guardian's power level, or light level as it used to be called. The number is a cumulative value of all gear currently equipped. You have a head, chest, hands, and feet slot, as well as a class armor slot, and those gear levels are added to your 3 weapon slots to provide an average number. Some events are locked behind a specific power level before you can participate as well. When you reach the level cap, kills and quest completion will continue to fill up that bar, and instead grant you a bright engram that can be taken to the cosmetic vendor to unlock emotes, shaders, and other items for your characters. Destiny 2 has expanded the universe a bit from the previous core game of Earth, Earth's moon, Mars, and Venus, and added Titan, a moon of Saturn, Nessus, an unstable terraformed planetoid in the solar system, and Io, a moon from Jupiter, as well as exploration of Earth's European dead zone. Each environment has a pretty unique aesthetic, and looking up to see the giant orbiting Jupiter, for example, was pretty sweet. Nessus is half organic and half terraformed by Vex, providing some pretty great visuals as well. The game's content is distributed across each of these planets, with 1 or 2 main missions occurring on each, but also featuring side adventures, hidden areas with a named enemy at the end offering a treasure chest reward for completion, and an increase in the number of gold region chests to locate. Public events will happen quite occasionally on the map, where all players on the world can gather to defend, attack, or capture an objective for the promise of loot. One neat feature added to public events is the ability to make them heroic by carrying out a discoverable sequence of actions, like taking out a specific vent, or not letting an enemy absorb smaller ones. Performing this action ups the difficulty of the completion of the event, but also boosts rewards a bit. The strikes return, playable through a playlist, once the milestone for them has been completed. Strikes are a 3 Guardian adventure into an instance dungeon, for lack of a better word. Strikes have events that take place and bosses and provide rewards for completion. I believe there were 6 different strikes at launch that the game will choose for you at random. Now, the game's 4 major enemy races, Vex, Cabal, Fallen, and Hive, return and make up a majority of the enemies you fight. The Taken also make an appearance, which were introduced through some of the Destiny 1 DLC. There seem to be a few additional variations of these enemies from the original, from what I remember, but it's possible these were also just in the DLC that I didn't see. But overall, there's really not a whole lot of addition to the enemy ranks. One major pleasing difference with the endgame is its structure. When you go to your planet travel screen, you can pull out a list of milestones from the left-hand side. Most of these reset on a weekly basis once you're at endgame and give you a high-level reward for completing a certain number of PvP matches, completing a few strikes, doing the Nightfall strike, which is one of the previously mentioned strikes but has added modifiers to make it more challenging, and completion of the raid, a more complex strike that allows 6 people in the fire team that requires more coordination between members. Now, when you queue for a strike or a general PvP match, the game will do some matchmaking, putting you with other random players also waiting for that event. Both the Nightfall and the raid require that you bring friends with you, or perhaps even members of your clan. Now, the clan is your in-game social network of sorts, allowing you to easily see who is online and work together to level it up to get rewards for all members. The Destiny Companion app does provide a forum of sorts. It's actually more like a want ad where you can post what event you want to do, how many people you need, and a brief note. But even then, the only way we could find to make that happen is to send them a PSN friend invite and invite them that way, which, when we needed one more, felt like such a hassle. I did do a fair amount of PvP, as I appreciate how the game's PvE and PvP continue to tie together. While levels seem to be taken out of the equation in the 2 PvP playlists currently available, the skills you've opened from leveling subclasses, as well as the weapons you find during the campaign, can be brought in to square off against other Guardians. Personally, I wish the playlists weren't quite as random, because I tend to go for the modes that have more of an overarching goal, a little more strategy than just the all-out death matches, and in the non-competitive playlist, that's one of 3. The competitive playlist has the team goals, but you also get random players in there that don't want to play as a team and instead try to solo a showboat. The game's campaign itself felt much more structured this time, unraveling a story, honestly a little bit Halo style, but of course a lot more freedom of movement and side content. There are some concepts and a lot of history and lore they injected through the expansion packs of the first game. I even tried to watch a well put together hour-and-a-half video primer on YouTube summing up all the key points, but it's pretty overridden with lingo and other subplots you didn't have time to cover that it can still be hard to gather it all up. Destiny 2 provides what you need to make sense of and care about the story in and of itself, though. The dialogue is really well written, and their voice actors did quite an amazing job, with a bit of star voice talent from the likes of Nathan Fillion, Lance Reddick, and Gina Torres. The game's score retains a lot of that familiar tribal drum-sounding drive that Bungie tends to use, but some of the tracks also have a nice electronic feel, industrial electronic even at times. Now for me, if I think of Destiny 2 more as a game to play with friends, either for its 10 to 12 hour campaign, or as a place to do some PvP, it really helps me align expectations. The first Destiny was touted first as kind of more MMO, which brings some pretty high expectations in content and interaction. If you want access to in-game content, there is a fair amount of grinding you'll have to do in the form of chasing public events, gathering tokens on each planet to turn in the local vendor for reputation, or doing PvP and strikes over and over, hoping for upgrades to drop. Personally get a little tired of that repetition fairly quickly, but the 35 to 40 hours I spent with Destiny 2, I feel like I got my money's worth. The shooting is solid, the environments are beautiful, quest layout and in-game content structure are well done, the game's campaign was interesting, and the story was told through well-written dialogue and great voice acting. There are quite a few different activities to participate in, the online co-op was solid, even with the necessity to queue now and then close to the release date. The grinding necessity and repetition of content required to see all the endgame is really only the negative to me, but that comes from burnout from a couple years spent on true MMOs doing daily quests. Well, I guess a better matchmaking system for all of the game's events would also be preferred, but Bungie defends themselves by saying they think players would get too frustrated doing some of these events with randos, but shouldn't that be left up to the player? Rated as a first-person, mission procedural open-world shooter, Destiny 2 lands at an 84 out of 100 on a true 1 to 100 scale, with 50 being an average game. This is Gero from Umbra Games. Thanks for watching. Receive notifications and new videos by hitting that subscribe button, or hit me up on Twitter @Umbra Games.